The trend we will be seeing in the next couple years is liquidity flowing from decentralized venues to decentralized. I think AMM for trading was always a workaround. What I mean is it's Solana fast, it's Solana cheap. It's actually way cheaper than Solana, like 10,000 times cheaper.
Today's guest is Vitali Dervoed, a long-term software engineer, DeFi builder, and CEO and co-founder of Composability Labs, who is currently launching a fully on-chain order book DEX on the Fuel network. Welcome, Vitali. Great to have you on the podcast. Your background in tech is quite long. Can you tell us a little bit more what you did before coming into crypto and also then after what you did in crypto before starting your current project?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, I've been in software development business all my life. This is the only thing I've been, I've built a career in software, let's say. And almost since the beginning, it was fintech. Before crypto, I was building software for fintech. There were others, of course, other things. And I was doing startups also throughout my, life. It didn't work in the beginning. I cannot remember how many startups didn't work, maybe like 10. They were small and I was just doing some things without, I guess, understanding of what I was actually doing. And then because we were extracting revenue through the service company that was building software for like Allianz, Deutsche Bank, Raiffeisen Bank, other companies as well. In the banking and insurance industries mainly, I didn't bother much until like a certain time. And then crypto happened. And anyone, I think, who was somehow involved in professional fintech were like deployed in especially ICO era, of course, because all those companies raised huge money and they needed to scale their engineering. And honestly, all my friends that I knew between 2016 and 2018 were building something in the crypto industry. Absolutely random projects. Some of them worked, most of them didn't, of course. But yeah, it was a great experience. I guess that's how I entered the industry. That's how I learned a lot. So crypto has like a very short memory on the industry level. People come 6 months, made it to a certain level, then they go. Everyone comes in thinking, yeah, I can make it in 6 months. I can get rich in 6 months and then I can leave. Why waste my time with you guys? That was not an approach that I was even thinking about. No, I came to crypto because of the excitement, because I thought, okay, so this thing has a culture. I really like the people. And I think for a long time, my biggest motivation was, okay, I want to meet all the people who work in crypto. I think that was actually the goal. And I didn't really understand it. I want to learn who is working here, what they are building, what the goals are. And I think it took me like 3 years to meet everyone and understand, get a helicopter view of the industry. Yeah, so between 2018 and 2020, I was building Ethereum scalability solutions. But at that time, I was also working still in Web 2. I was still building for banking. And we already got our first grants from the Ethereum Foundation and even raised first cash for Plasma, side chains, parachains, whatever you call it. There were no names for the majority of these solutions at that time. Vitalik didn't publish many articles, as many as now. Then in late 2020, I started building in the Solana ecosystem. My first project was Neon EVM. Again, it's an EVM scalability layer on Solana. So that's like a bridging solution between EVM, between Ethereum and Solana again. I don't think it worked, but I don't think that any EVM layer worked at all, like in the long term. Again, when we started it, we didn't know exactly what we were building. Was it a rollup or a side chain? We couldn't name it properly. And we just stopped, inventing the explainers for that. After Neon, I joined Rockaway X as a researcher. I was working as a researcher at the VC. Researcher is a great job if you don't feel like building, but you want to learn everything. That's amazing. And if you want to try any tech, it gives you this, curiosity of does this thing actually work? Let me try. Okay, no, it doesn't yet. And then you see what projects are selling the future, the majority of them, of course, and who are building okay, so what I just tweeted actually works. That's the absolute rarity in this industry.
I think it's an interesting point because I feel like what is often the CEO role outside crypto is like sort of the lead researcher. I feel like a lot of people like who are running big Web3 projects, they're actually leading research.
I agree. So I can even give you some data. So in Web 2, statistically, the most successful CEOs are former product people, especially like from Amazon, Google. These companies have perfect product process within. Like, for instance, Alex Warren from DEX is a former Amazon product guy. He's super skillful in building a product, absolutely data driven. In Web 3, statistically, those are former researchers. If you were just Jeff from Hyperliquid, right? He approached building Hyperliquid in the most practical way. He researched everything that exists, and then he self-educated builder. And then we have Hyperliquid, which is a very pragmatic, very good solution as a product. Yeah, so after Rockaway, I joined Mango Markets as a head of growth and was working there until we had this attack on October 13, 2022. Avi, there was a hacker, his name is Avi. I mean, this case was described in Rec News and all other. It was very loud, I think. We were preparing all sorts of campaigns at that time. And then we got the campaign we would never expect, like a hacking, campaign. It was very loud. And then in 1 month, FTX happened, and I thought, okay. But for me, FTX, like this Black Swan event, was Mango already. And then FTX collapsed, and Solana, I think it was the darkest hour of Solana. I didn't think it's going to recover. I didn't, honestly, I thought that's it. And that was it for many other chains, like Waves, for instance, and like many protocols died that month, November 2022. That was an interesting month. I went to Binance Accelerator to Paris right after the FTX event, right after the breakpoint, the last Lisbon breakpoint. And there were I have many pictures from those 2 weeks of mentorship. There were mainly Asian teams, but in Paris. And I could see how Binance, people reacted to FTX. They were pretty happy about it, so to say. And then I started building on Fuel for a bunch of reasons. We participated in the hackathon at Lisbon, in November 2022, won a prize from Lisbon, from Fuel. Then we built Swayland. Swayland is a compound lending protocol rebuilt from Solidity into Sway. That's our first touch of the Sway programming language. We launched it in 40 days. We were only 3 people at that time. We were calling ourselves Sway Gang. And those people would later become founders of Composability Labs. There are enough gangs in crypto, we thought. Let's give it a good name. And we started building Spark. I came to Nick, the CEO of Fuel, and said, okay, listen, so I want Serum on Ethereum. I want to build an order book based ecosystem. And that's still the vision behind Spark. I want to transition Ethereum from AMM-based products to order books. I think AMM for trading was always a workaround. I think it was just, okay, we're super limited by the EVM, but let's just keep pursuing building on it. I think Solidity devs were just lazy, to be honest, to try something different. This space has one interesting feature. I thought it only was present in the Solana ecosystem. So Solanians, they don't know about the existence of other chains and they don't care. There are a bunch of reasons for that. That's one of the reasons why they missed the Hyperliquid airdrop. Oh, is there something happening outside Solana? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. But Ethereans have the same kind of feature. Whenever I say, okay, we have Spark, this is an on-chain order book. Oh, on-chain order book, Ether Delta. Come on, bro. Ether Delta was the first generation of the order books. Anyways, Nick said, yeah, so we have this fancy feature called predicates on Fuel. You got to use the predicates to build the best order book. We, 3 weeks after I come back to Nick and say, okay, you need a bulletproof indexer on Fuel to fetch your state change from the indexer, to fetch all your order data from the indexer to retrieve those predicates. So the predicates are stateless transactions on Fuel. This is the implementation of atomic transactions also. I think every chain has some sort of stateless settlement, like Aptos and Sui, they have a similar product as well. Why we chose Fuel? Here is the thing. You cannot build a fast order book on the EVM. You need a fast, parallelizable virtual machine like Solana, for example. But if you want composable liquidity within the Ethereum ecosystem, it should be either L1, Ethereum L1, or L2. L1 is impossible. You got to build an off-chain order book on L1. That might be possible, but again, because Ethereum has super long finality, right? It's never going to happen. So we thought it should be an L2. And Fuel today is the fastest VM. It's the fastest L2 within the Ethereum ecosystem. It's the only parallelizable, first of all. Movement and Eclipse would be, okay, that's Eclipse also. Yeah, would be like the second and the third. And I think these three alt VMs will be bringing the next wave of adoption to Ethereum, to be honest. Because what is the next wave? When we say the next wave of adoption is actually a new group of people. It's a new group of like users. It's like fresh blood. I guess no one even thinks this far when they say adoption. You got to end up talking to the people that have never been transacting on Ethereum, right? So people say growth comes from outside your comfort zone. So you got to leave your comfort zone. So it means it's not going to be comfortable. That's the thing.
It's an interesting point. What I remember in our previous discussions is that you mentioned that you looked at a lot of different blockchains and you ended up sort of feeling at that time like Solana is something that would become big. And you were right in hindsight. How is your feeling now with Fuel? Do you think like it's something similar on the Ethereum side, or?
Okay, so whenever I pitch Fuel, I say, okay, it's like Solana, but is this the Ethereum L2? What I mean is it's Solana fast, it's Solana cheap. It's actually way cheaper than Solana, like 10,000 times cheaper. I feel developer experience is better. Like there's a bunch of things. Fuel is very Ethereum aligned. Solana Rust is different. This space creates ridiculous things using marketing. Fuel has like its own VM, Fuel VM, its own domain-specific language called Sway, which is very similar to pure Rust. I think Fuel even has Rust compiler. You can write code in Rust. There's not going to be any problem about it. Similar to Move, I would say. It's like Rust plus a couple libraries on top, which are called Sway. Again, if you are building, like if you're a market maker, let's say, and you're going to run Fuel node, and you're going to install an indexer on top, it's going to take you 3 to 5 days to sync those nodes. On Solana, it's taking 7 days. EVM nodes will take you 30 minutes, 15 minutes, I guess. So still the experience for the trader on the EVM might be, well, better because you start trading on the same day when you start engaging with a new blockchain if it's EVM based. But Fuel is already closer to this than, I don't want to FUD Solana at all, okay? It's a great blockchain. It's a great community. I have most of my friends are Solana builders. I made more friendships on Solana than anywhere else.
Why are Fuel transactions so much cheaper than Solana transactions, which are already very cheap compared to an Ethereum transaction?
Oh yeah. So Nick and the Fuel team, they have completely reimagined the virtual machine. First of all, it's optimized on every level. It's optimized on the computation level. Then again, the transactions are still settled on Ethereum. They settle them in batches. That's like, there are many reasons to that. But in terms of the tech, I think Fuel VM, that's already V2, I guess, of the Fuel VM, because this was Fuel V1. It's like using all the latest trends of the tech. Like there's native account abstraction, there's native asset system. You can pay gas in any token you want, any token you have. there's like zk hybrid proving there as well. So you can like deposit and withdraw within less than, I mean, for me, it works in 90 minutes, like 1 hour and a half, whenever I deposit to withdraw. Deposit is quick, withdrawal is less than 2 hours on Fuel right now. But when there's more usage, I guess it's gonna be 6 hours or something like that. What else is there? Yeah, I mean, it's in Rust. All the Rust based chains are normally faster. There's parallelization as well, so you can parallelize the transactions. You can execute in parallel. Fuel VM is super, what do you call it? I think there's like 8,000 transactions per core that Fuel VM can process with Ethereum. And then it settles on Ethereum and it comes down to less than 1,000 transactions per second. But that's like Ethereum DA. If you use Avail or Nafl or Labs solution or even Celestia, that's going to be way more. I think the integrations with those DA layers are in progress. So let's see how the numbers jump up. The bottleneck is Ethereum DA today.
How does it like maybe like the broader picture, like the key properties of Fuel look like in terms of like latency, like maybe how much does a transaction cost? Will the transaction cost go up over time once there will be more transactions? I mean, historically, a lot of blockchains were promoting low transaction fees, but nobody was using them. So that's why basically the fee market that it was cost zero. How does the parallelization work in the Fuel VM, and is it complicated to parallelize your code?
No, it's pretty straightforward via multi-call. You can like batch execute the orders, the transactions. That's if you use the contract-based design, like if you design using the contracts. If you use stateless design using the predicates, okay, so that's a different story. You can, well, first of all, the predicates remove this TPS meme completely. Like there can be millions of transactions, like as much as your computation can process. So if you have like big nodes, right? If you have many of them, if you have many Fuel nodes, that can be millions of transactions per second. And that's almost gas free. Like you're not going to even, you can easily subsidize gas for your users if your product is predicate based. Predicates are similar to Bitcoin UTXOs. I would say, yeah, Fuel is a UTXO based chain that, and again, optimizes the data processing. And I didn't mention that before. So the predicates are the simplest type of the delegate function. It like works as follows. Let's say you have an order book, and when you click create an order, the predicate is being compiled on chain because it's not compiled on chain, it's compiled within Fuel VM. And then your assets aren't deposited there instantly because the order book has to find a counterparty for that. So the predicate, when the counterparty is found, it verifies the private keys. And then if, because like can only return like yes or no, so it's a boolean, right? If it's a yes, so it's if the verification reply is positive, then predicate swaps the assets. The beauty comes, I guess, when you can partially execute that swap, that order, or you can match like one fulfill to many, kind of like if you're selling one Bitcoin, you deposit it into predicate and you match it with 100 other people. That's the coolest part. It's like fractionalized, and if there's something left, like 0.0001 USD, then the new predicate is going to be built and you get your assets back. So with the predicates, you can parallelize as many transactions as you want. I don't quite know how to plug in the like Python SDKs to this design. For instance, CCXT, right? You cannot, I mean, that's a new thing, and you gotta R&D it. We're still doing it. With the contract-based Fuel, pretty straightforward. Something I used before. Again, I think R&D investments in this part are less. So we have already built Spark using the contract-based Spark is now contract-based. Why? Because we're building the perps. We're launching the perps in 4 weeks or less between Christmas and New Year. I guess the first app will be out. There's a lot of stuff coming up. And then some markets in the future will make permissionless listing for the predicate-based order book, and will allow adding as many markets as you want. And that's another beauty of the predicates. You can add as many markets as you want because that's essentially unlimited throughput in there.
So how does the parallelization work? So basically one core, is this executed by a single machine, or can it also be divided to multiple nodes executing the transaction? Because as I understand, I mean, like you only have a certain sort of time, which is like the block time or sort of the slot time that allows you to execute transactions in a certain order. So how does that work, like exactly, and can you prevent sort of a double spend by parallelizing sort of the execution?
Okay, so I get it. So that's a very Ethereum aligned question, I would say. So when you are building on the parallelizable chains like Solana, again, you aren't surprised that this stack exists. So fuel parallelization, I guess, is a little bit similar to how Solana approaches it on the contract level and on the VM level. On the infrastructure level, like how do the validators process those transactions to avoid the like you said, the double spending? Honestly, I don't remember already, but we have been discussing it many times with Nick.
So basically, you picked Fuel because you were looking for an alternative to Solana, want to tap into the Ethereum ecosystem, and to build the order book DEX. Can you explain for those who are not experts in this niche, what is an order book DEX? Where did they come from, and what can they bring to DeFi?
So order book is not a new invention. Order books exist since like 1500s. They're old. They have been used by the traders for ages. It's a book of orders, buy and sell orders. You come to an exchange and you say, hey, I want to sell this for this price. And then an exchange tells you, okay, as soon as we have a buyer, we'll let you know. And then like, oh, wait a minute, we already have a buyer for this. I have it in my books. This is like essentially your money. You leave the goods here. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day. And order books have been used in TradFi again forever, like New York Stock Exchange. And actually, here's the thing. The exchanges, like any of them, like NASDAQ, they're using Visa gateway, same gateway as you are using for your, card payments whenever you pay for goods to process the transactions. So it's sitting on Visa infrastructure, all of that. They are licensing it to, everyone, and any exchange in the world will most probably use that. There are a couple, though, using other systems. And this is the analog of the blockchains for the order books. So order book, like let's take for instance Spark. Spark order book is very simple. It's a smart contract with it's a limit order contract essentially that has a deposit function. When you click on create an order in Spark interface, you interact with this function. Then contract function called match order is matching your orders, buy and sell, and then there's withdraw and withdraw all. And that's essentially it. And then there are 3 indexers that we use on the data relayer that is relaying those transactions, orders among the indexers. Again, we rely on that's essentially off-chain data. It's decentralized, but that's essentially off-chain data, which is normal, I guess. So we are only working with post-finalized data on Ethereum. Why is this solution even important? The thing is, when you have an AMM, like if you have Uniswap, you have a contract and this algorithm within that matches your orders. When DeFi OGs have been creating the first DeFi protocols, they tried to replicate the most popular banking services in financial industry, and those are currency exchange and lending and borrowing, essentially. Like lending protocols are representing a loan functionality in a decentralized way, in a permissionless way as well. That's super cool because those were for the first time ever implemented on chain. Uni was supposed to be built for users for currency exchange. It wasn't built for trading. And how does currency exchange work? So you have pools, you have liquidity pool, right? There are 2 assets, both pooled, and depending on the amount of those assets in the pools, right? You have the price of those assets. So the price discovery is happening through the amount of the assets in the pools. And then there's an algorithm arbitraging among the pools, maintaining a certain balance between the two. And then you are like reliant on the users who, the more users you have, the less impermanent loss, the less slippage you have. So you need to have, well, users again. Order book price discovery is different. So you don't have an algorithm within unless you have yours, of course. So user comes in, there's a price, it's set, it's a market price. There are also Oracle-based order books, though, when it's like you go to the market and you want to buy some goods, right? And you see a couple sellers with those goods competing with each other, essentially. And you see that the price is this, and you know that there's another market where the price is different. What traders normally do, they would arbitrage instantly, like, okay, so I buy cheaper, I sell at a higher price. But what we have recently seen with, for instance, meme coin season, and what we have seen with hype token launch was, it's called fair launch. It's called community-driven price discovery as well. It's when you launch on, you don't have to launch on a certain, like FDV, let's say, you don't have to launch your assets with a certain price. You let your community set the price. It's a very capitalistic, very market-driven, very fair process. And then order books, again, if you want to list an asset, you got to do that on the order book. You don't do that on pool-based products, on the AMM-based products. You don't have to pool anything. It's always like, and that's actually, why is it important? Because Ethereum DeFi sits on the metrics that I find ancient today. TVL, for example. And if you look at the Ethereum TVL, it's massive, and that's all passive liquidity, which isn't deployed at any second, at any given moment. While Solana DeFi, for example, is sitting on the volumes. It's sitting, you never ask the people, what's your meme coin TVL? Like, let's say there are protocols that have many of those shitters. And that would be a weird question. The product you normally ask is, how much money did you make trading the memes? And all the meme trading is happening, well, essentially through the order books, normally. And order books, they bring Ethereum DeFi, they can bring Ethereum DeFi to a completely new level. So when we say adoption, it comes also with the new metrics. The North Star metric of the order books is the volumes. So that's all active liquidity. If you have, let's say, 10K USDC, can, what do you call it? You can make them efficient if you trade within the order book. You don't have to deposit like millions in TVL to get 5 or 6% of annualized yield on that amount, because that's relatively low. That's what I guess even traditional banking can bring you today, with all the inflation and deflation applied. While in the order book, you don't have to have a lot of cash to get the same essentially annualized yield. It all comes down to the efficiency of the algorithms you're using. And normally today's like Ethereum, today's DeFi, order book-based DeFi mainly sits on the arbitraging among the different venues. So we have like a bunch of traders, for instance, on Spark. Their bots are finding price discrepancies on different venues, and they trade across those. And that's how they, that's like the simplest thing you can do. Again, in decentralized exchanges, I guess arbitraging is very crowded space today. There's like a lot of competition there. While in DeFi, that's way less competitive. So there's still a lot of opportunities there. And the efficiency of DeFi, I would say it's pretty low today. So again, if you're early, you can make really good profit from it.
How much do you think like the capital efficiency will improve from AMM to like order book DEX?
Well, there is this, if you go to DeFi Llama and you see there's even a ratio like TVL to volumes, I guess. It's really low in AMM-based products. Like it's never equal, it's never even 1, right? It's like 0.003, something like that. While in Solana-based DeFi, I think the average is 17. So your volumes can be 17 times higher than your TVL. That's a lot. That's a decent one. How you get that? You need to transact a lot. You need to have many transactions. This is when the TPS comes in. Because if you have, let's say, 10K and you transact 1,000 times, right, per second or per minute or like per day, you have this volume essentially, which is 10K like you have 10 million volumes. That's essentially how it works. And then the fees are, of course, they remain in the order book. And then this treasury might be like distributed among the community or whatever. So that's how these correlate.
How do the central limit order books then also improve the price? Because it's different in the price discovery mechanism is different. Do you have any metrics how much that will improve, or how this can be compared in general?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So while the price in the AMM is being set by the algorithm, the price in the order book is being set by the market, by the players on the market. That's like the simple answer. There's another answer to this as well, that AMMs, to discover the price, they deploy more computation. So there's also, it also leads to higher fees. So, and you have the same situation in TradFi as well. Wherever you have a middleman, there will be middleman will be charging a fee for the services provided. In our case, that's sort of like a fee for the computation. In AMM, you have more of that. Also, when you say central limit order books, there are all sorts of designs of those central limit order books. There's even like virtual AMM on top of the order book, which I think is the best implementation of the AMM, by the way, but that's a different topic. So order book is like algorithm free. The price, it's always going to be, the liquidity will always come down with a better price than AMM.
But there are some trade-offs. I mean, the A in AMM is basically what simplifies it also for many to even set the price by providing liquidity into like an AMM, while you need to more frequently update your orders in an order book, which, as I understand, the first order book based DEX on Ethereum, which was the first DEX at all, 1delta, that was basically the limitation that the blockchain was too slow, the transactions were too expensive on top of the SEC case. But outside that, I think that's what sort of then these different limitations by early blockchains basically benefited the AMM design over the order book design. Now, as sort of some of these bottlenecks were removed, this design seems to become more optimal. But then when you look at on a centralized exchange into an order book, there are tens, hundreds, or thousands of orders updated every second.
You got to keep your books filled, your books full. That's the thing. So I see it as an order book is essentially a two-side marketplace. You have buyers, you have sellers, you have makers and takers. When you have an order book, when you're running it, it's like you have a market and you need to, the metric is called supply capacity. So there's like even a technique how you create that. You need to have a lot of maker orders and you need to have a depth of the order book. The more depth you have, the larger players you get. The more competition you create among the makers, the better liquidity price you're going to get for the takers. There are many ways how you can do that. Yeah, EtherDelta, I wouldn't call it a failure. That was just very limited by the Ethereum itself. And I guess they had a very unlucky history. They got to like SEC also as an unlicensed exchange. So there were a bunch of reasons why people would avoid EtherDelta. But I meet a lot of traders who liked it. That I think also pushed the Ethereum to AMM-based designs. They proved to be more resilient.
Can you maybe explain also like how it works from a maybe market maker perspective or liquidity provider perspective? So you basically need to deposit certain funds into the contract and then you create an order, or is this a single transaction? And every time the price moves, you need to cancel a standing limit order and create potentially a new one. Does this then always incur gas fees? And how much does this accrue over time? Do you have any ideas how costly that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a market maker, every time someone who runs an order book engages with you and tells, like, let's say, hey, I have a new order book, I need to make it, right? I need to set up the maker orders there. There are maybe 250 trading firms that call themselves market makers today. Sometimes they also call themselves liquidity providers, but those two entities can be different. If your market is already liquid, if you have some assets there, if you have some asset pairs, then the market maker sees, okay, there is some traction. So that's probably a tested solution. That's probably relatively bug free, and you can create new markets on this venue. There's potentially some traction, some taker volume, some takers, some users that can come in and take those buy and sell orders. If the market is, and again, for the market maker is investing in your relationship, right? When they are dealing with an order book, especially the new one. And they will tell you, okay, so we bring like this liquidity. If they bring 10K, then they provide 10K depth for this asset pair. And then there's a spread as well. The tighter the spread is, the difference between buy and sell orders, the better trader experience is. It makes the trades more predictable. You know that nobody's going to front run you with a better price if the spread is really tight. Because if the spread is large, right, you can always write an algorithm that will be offering a better price like after any order is created, and you will be taking it faster, and you'll make some profit on it. However, if the market maker tells you provide this bips of spread, like 0.01%, 1 bips, let's say, well, that would be a very brave act, I would say. Normally it doesn't happen. Normally it's like 10 bips, 20 bips, 40 bips. That would be a healthier one. That's a more realistic scenario. To provide this spread, market maker will need to put some liquidity into the order book. If it's, let's say, ETH to USDC pair, there should be some liquidity on both sides. And market maker normally tells you, I'm bringing this cash, I'm putting this cash into your order book, right? But I'm investing, I want to get it back. There are some market makers that come and tell you, I don't have a liquidity, I just make your books, right? You give me that liquidity and I do my work. Market makers, they of course automate this process. They have their know-how is their tech, is their bots, it's their algorithms that make this markets. And then you say, okay, I give you 100K, you make my books. I'm making it too, simple to explain. Maybe I shouldn't. I guess anyone would understand market maker business after this. You give them like 100K and you tell them, can you return it in, don't spend it. And then what it means for the market maker, it means, okay, then I will deploy also my inventory retention bot that will be taking some fees, right? And retaining them in that wallet and that account, in that inventory. So I can return this 100K to Vitali once the making is made. And it's like chicken and egg problem. Once you have supply, once you have the good maker orders, right? Any taker can come in and say, okay, there are a lot of orders that I can actually take, and leave the fees in the order book, leave the fees in the protocol.
How does it work on Spark? When you make an order, are the funds then locked into this order, or can they be also provided into multiple pairs? Because there have been order book designs for limit orders built on top of AMMs where you basically don't have to provide the funds. It's more like a pre-signed transaction that will be sent once the price limit was hit and will be potentially executed or not. I guess that's different in your case, where it works more like a traditional centralized exchange.
So right now it works like a traditional decentralized exchange, actually. So if you, no, actually it depends on how you use Spark. So on Spark UI, you have to, when you create an order, okay, if you open Spark Connect Wallet, there's like an asset sidebar where you can see your assets. Those are assets in your wallet. They aren't in Spark. They aren't deposited in Spark yet. Once you create an order, you deposit a little bit of cash into Spark, and it's like there in the order book. Then when the orders are matched and you still see your assets, but it remains in the Spark order book, then you can withdraw it easily. So there is a withdrawal thing. Do you have to sign? Yes, you have to sign that transaction. Now, it doesn't cost anything on fuel, so the price is super low. It won't affect anyone.
The signing doesn't cost anything, but sending the order or removing the order will still have a cost.
Yeah, but again, it's very low. It's like I've been tweeting about how low it is. We will subsidize the gas for the users in the next iteration of Spark. So there's going to be gasless anyways.
And how does the general design work? I mean, like in a traditional centralized exchange, you usually have like an order queue. So basically, every new order gets in the back of the queue, and then there is a matching engine that's taking the oldest order in the queue and tries to match it with the standing limit orders in the book. And if it doesn't match, it gets added to the order book as a limit order, or depending on what order it is, it will be executed or killed. Is that the same design in Spark?
Yeah, it's price, time, priority, very classic matching engine design. So the quick answer is yes, same. However, you got to find the best price in the order book as well, right? And so two metrics involved. The closest price, because it's a market price, you can try to sell one ETH for like 1K, right? 1K USDC. And if there's a person who wants to buy this, ETH at this price, then so be it. I mean, we cannot affect it. It can technically happen anywhere. We're thinking about, some order books, they censor this kind of transactions, but if the order book sits on chain, you can't do that. It's censorship, resistant, essentially. Yeah, so the order book finds the closest order and the oldest order in the order book as well that has been created there, and matches the orders.
And this matching engine is all running on chain in a transparent way.
Yes, the meme pool is public, right? So whoever can technically access it. The order book sits on chain. There are all sorts of it's a controversial discussion whether the order book should sit off chain or on chain, because on the centralized exchanges, of course it's off chain and it's settling on chain. It's a private meme pool, so nobody sees that. So there's a little bit of counterparty risk as well involved. However, some traders would say provides a better experience. I think these two products, off-chain order book and on-chain order book, are, there are two types of users, like two different user groups using both, but there are traders trading on both venues as well.
How does it compare to existing on-chain order books like DYDX and where do you think Spark differs?
Yeah, so DYDX uses exactly this off-chain order book with on-chain settlement. You can easily see, if the order book is off-chain, you go to docs, you see API. If there's a API, part in their docs, like not SDK API, then there's a backend, right? If there's a backend, it's a centralized server. Normally it's centralized. That's also what Hyperliquid has. Advantages are the following. You can plug in the entire user group that are using Python solutions, who are using the algorithm written in Python, against CCXT and everything else. You can allow for that, which will short-term bring you instant adoption from this user group, of course. Also, matching might be faster, but that's already a meme today, because the data off-chain is still cheaper, it's still faster than the majority of the chains. You can make more orders per second, you can run more orders off-chain, but it's not transparent, it's not decentralized. That's your money-making unit, and you control the assets of your users at any given moment. You as a centralized entity, So ideally you gotta license this thing, okay? Regulations were pretty harsh over the last couple of years, and I don't think any of them would like it. So it comes down to also legal overheads, because you gotta register this product as centralized, as an exchange, essentially. Now, if it's decentralized, you do not control the funds of your users. They are sitting on the blockchain, right? It's fully transparent. And, but you enable MEV, and in any, there was this long discussion that Solana on-chain order books do not have MEV. Well, now they do, because Solana grew these traders that can front run others on the blockchain that was presumably not having MEV at all. Now, when you go to the docs and you see SDK section and you do not see API, that's the first sign that you're dealing with an on-chain order book. You have SDKs in all sorts of DeFi protocols, right? It means that there's no backend where you plug in. There's no centralized unit there. And again, legal overheads for you as an operator of the exchange are lower because you don't control the funds. You don't control the assets of your users. I guess I answered your question, but if I can talk more about it if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole off-chain matching, including centralized exchanges, introduces potential risk. Also, we don't know if the integrity of the matching is really there, which obviously with the on-chain matching algorithm is given. Yeah, it's interesting because DeFi started out, everything was on-chain, and then, well, due to the limitation of the blockchain, it wasn't as efficient as it could have been. Then a lot of parts started to move off-chain, and and now we are bringing them on-chain again, which also helps usually with composability. To have everything on-chain, is Spark fully composable? Can I do take a flash loan, do a swap, pay back, and as a synchronous transaction?
You cannot do flash loans yet, but we're going to enable them. That's in progress. We are building this functionality right now. Yeah, so if you have a centralized matching engine, if you have a centralized also like sequencer, for example, there's all sorts of ways how you can centralize your transactions. It's always, I see it as you come to a crypto conference and you have two queues, VIP and for plebs queues. Or airport, again, you have fast track and then you have this general check-in. That's how anything that is centralized is looking for the traders. You can agree on exclusive. You can bring the exclusivity to your product. Let's say you are a big trading firm and you say, can you please prioritize the transactions that we do, and we bring huge volumes to your books. We essentially make your markets way more liquid than they're now. And you will be doing it because, well, you got to scale your business. You got to grow it. That's a good proposal. Why, deny it? And many order books are doing exactly this. Also, anything that comes with the tag real time today can potentially be exactly doing that. We process your transactions faster on a price time priority basis because you are a VIP customer of ours. So that's better for our customers, that's better for our business, that's better for our company. But there is this whole line of the people who will be waiting until the big guys have essentially finished transacting. This might come down to nanoseconds. No, not nanoseconds, but milliseconds, right? Still, there is, this is exactly what is going to happen. While if same rules apply for everyone, well, again, it comes with trade-offs that you can easily understand from the previous narrative.
Do the same rules apply for everyone? I mean, basically, MEV says that or told us that the rules in the blockchain don't apply for everyone, or some parties can be in a advantageous position, at least during some time. Is that also the case for Spark? And also something I've been wondering, is there also other ways that can be attacked, through spam, for instance? I could imagine if the transactions are cheap, then I can just create 1 million or 1 billion orders, which will make the matching much more costly.
Short answer is no. There's no MEV. I mean, MEV, I don't see it as a problem, to be honest. It's again, it's a chicken and egg problem. MEV only exists on the liquid markets. So it's a good sign. Okay, if people start front running on my venue, my trading venue, then there is a market there for MEV. So there are users. You've done some marketing, you've done some business development well, and you finally have some usage. Now, MEV is happening on the infrastructure level. So you can run the servers, right, that will validate those transactions, that will process those. You can run a node essentially. If your validator set to run a node, you got to whitelist it. If you need to be then this problem isn't possible. If your chain is adding the validators in a permissionless way, then this is where this can start occurring. Fuel is too new to have MEV, I would say. And Spark is too new. We launched less than a month ago, less than 4 weeks. So we don't have MEV right now. But in the future, there's a bunch of ways how you can prevent MEV on your on-chain order book. When I say future, well, if we are active and if the market is good as now, then maybe 12 months from now, that might be the thing. So Fuel is also providing a bunch of anti-MEV solutions on the node level. And again, you can also like have multi-builders and multi-leaders. And I'm not sure if I have to explain it, but that's like you have leaders on your sequencer in different parts of the world. And if you're transacting from Europe, let's say, and someone is transacting from China and your leader is in China, then their transactions might be, their orders as well, processed faster than yours, which is making your trading experience worse. And then if you have two leaders in China and in Europe, then your transactions might be processed, well, I would say simultaneously. But of course, there's also price and time tag in there. That's just.
And the limit orders itself, they prevent a lot of the MEV damage in general, or the fact that also you can make more transactions more cheaply that are closer to the price, especially having these sitting transactions in the order book.
Yeah, if you decompose, sorry to interrupt you. So if you decompose MEV in the beginning when it's just starting, it actually improves trading experience, like because someone is creating limit orders and it's tightening the spread, right? So there's more opportunity for the traders. There's actually more fair trading, and okay, then I can increase the volumes on these venues. And then when you increase the volumes and the people create even more limit orders that front run yours, well, then this is when it starts happening. Honestly, I don't know how we're gonna, because the MEV operators, they come up with new solutions and all the time. There are many ways how you can fix this. And again, we are working on all of them, but I don't know what exactly is going to come to Spark production in like 12 months from now.
You mentioned also that you're bringing stop orders somewhere in the future.
We already have it.
You already have them. Trading venues, they have often a lot of trading rules that sort of protect market participants. And how do you think doing that? Even like circuit breakers and so on. Like I think also like one issue I could just see is like spamming the order book if the costs are too low. Well, how do you deal with all of these things?
You mentioned circuit breakers. So that's when you onboard the traders that have built their business on chain, they normally bring their own solutions for that. They normally bring their algorithms with it. That because on-chain traders, normally what they will require from you is just give me one type of basic limit orders. That's it. They will not need anything else. And then they improve it's happening on the trader side. On the centralized exchange venues, it's happening on the exchange side. Like I have my same algorithms everywhere. So again, it depends on, I give you a very simple example. So in the centralized exchange, if you create a buy order and a sell order, the exchange is tracking that these two orders have been created from one address and it will not match them, never. Then on the decentralized exchanges, you can easily wash trade yourself because the exchange will match these two orders. It doesn't track them, like nobody is doing that. So the algorithm that you are writing, you will tell, okay, don't match the two orders of mine, right? There's a lot of controversy and discussions around these features, but like I see, again, that's just two different user groups. Now, spamming the order book is exactly what killed the Ether Delta, one of the reasons, by the way. So spamming is people create a lot of limit orders and they are, well, getting matched. Today, I prefer to, again, we mostly onboard on-chain traders today. And we didn't get any complaints about current Spark user experience. But I guess if we start onboarding, if we bring Python support, if we bring CCXT, and if we move the computations of the order book off-chain at some point, I see it as one of the scalability solutions, by the way. If that's what our community will request, then the problem disappears like by itself. There are a lot of solutions on the market that are already, like there are specs, for that. You can just do this and you will prevent the spamming of your order book. This, again, depends on how Spark will evolve. This depends on what our community will request. And this depends also on how the market of DeFi is going to turn out the next 12 months. If it grows a lot, then the business of the on-chain traders will grow. Again, more, then we'll see that's going to actually be a new era of fully on-chain order books, bringing the new way how we trade.
How do you bring assets to Spark? Because one of the big problems I'm seeing with this whole fragmentation in the Ethereum ecosystem is that everyone is creating their own DeFi ecosystem. And in the end, it's just like DeFi protocol tokens that are being traded on DeFi protocols. But that's not the idea. You want to have as many assets as possible that are tradable. What is your approach on listing assets kind of in this fuel silo?
I don't see fuel as a silo. Like I was thinking like this just before Hyperliquid thing happened. However, our advisors were telling me it doesn't matter where your chain is based, as long as in the beginning you have incentives and you have like infrastructure and bridges in the next phase. We have 7 bridges on Fuel right now. You can bridge your assets from wherever you want, from Solana, from Ethereum L2s, anywhere. So it's not, and we even have layer swap that does it within less than 1 minute. So it's not a problem where your trading venue is based. Again, it's like the liquidity price. What do I get? Why should I bring assets to your venue? That's a question you have to constantly answer to your users. One of the answers, and that's exactly your question. Well, I have many assets that have a good spread. I think you can approach this from many ways. First of all, you have to listen to your customers. Give them the asset pairs that they want. Now the question is, do they know what assets they want? That's so the right answer to this question is work with your community, grow it, ask what they are expecting from your exchange. If that's meme coins, do that. Because recently we've seen super like large volumes with the meme coins. Give them what they want. If your customers are like institutions and they only have like they need 5 assets, like look at Vertex, they have 5 assets on the spot exchange, and 2 of them are Arbitrum and Vertex tokens. So that's just ETH, BTC, and USDT to USDC pair. That's essentially what you have. If you look at Hyperliquid, if you look at Solana DeFi order books backed with memes, and that's fine because you as a trader, you can trade whatever has spread. Fuel recently had their point program, and we were thinking, should we list all these flavors of ETH, like all the derivatives? Well, I'm not sure, because why would I trade these if, you can go to other venue, exchange it to like your BZ ETH to ETH, and then go to Spark and trade it there. You most probably already have algorithms that are tracking ETH price on different venues. Because like I mentioned before, people will be arbitraging your DEX with some other venues. But again, if your traders still know, you like list BZ ETH, I'm fine with that. Create spread there. I'll be bringing you some fees, then why not?
How do you bootstrap the Spark there are many exchanges where you could list, where you can trade. I guess like liquidity is one of the most important sort of parts to making this an attractive trading venue. How do you plan to sort of be winning as Spark as an exchange in this very diverse environment? And maybe what are also the opportunities for the different stakeholders in the Spark ecosystems? Because there are market makers, there are traders, there are people who maybe build dApps on top of Spark. Where can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yes, absolutely. So long-term vision is to exit to community. Okay, so I don't even have to answer this question at all. Like you need to, in the long run, allow your community to answer the questions like how we increase the liquidity on this venue. Now, question is, how do you build that community, right? You need to bring users. In the beginning, you bring users one by one, by hand. Like, look, I have Spark and this is a new exchange. It doesn't have a lot of liquidity. Come trade with me. Why would I trade with you? They would say, oh, because I have like these incentives. I have these asset pairs. I'll give you this in exchange to like you being a user of my platform. So that's how you do it in the beginning. And then when your market is relatively liquid, it's easier. The more liquid your market becomes, the deeper the liquidity is, the more types of customers you can onboard. Don't expect it to happen in one day, of course, and you got to work a lot to make it happen at all. And you have all sorts of you have market makers, right? You have institutions, you have retail, you have whales, you have on-chain traders, you have off-chain traders, and you need to have solutions for all of them. You need to constantly, while market makers are being brought to you by, a good business developer, so you better have one on your team. Takers are being brought by, your marketing, your growth crew, essentially. That's mostly retail. And you need to constantly focus on different things, which, well, come down to how good you are in execution. There's just a lot of work, man.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of work to be done. Also, given that it's like a lot of typical API-based, typical interfaces, I guess, that centralized exchanges have, and like a lot of the libraries and a lot of tech has to be built in order to fuel sort of a whole exchange ecosystem.
If you work 9 to 5 days a week, it's never going to happen. That's a quick answer. You have to disrupt others in your efficiency, like your team efficiency. So start with the team. But like some people, for instance, they build an exchange and they bring their friends and family. They bring their community that they already have with them. That's exactly the Hyperliquid case, actually. They had a brand, right? They had a good name as centralized exchange traders, and then they brought their friends. That's the case with DYDX as well. They were building their community for 4 years, right? And then distributing all the fees, because for the last couple of years, DYDX has been distributing all the fees among their community. That's how they bring the retail. That's how they stop sitting on the partnerships, like exclusively on the institutional liquidity, slowly shifting towards retail. And I guess that's honestly brilliant work. DYDX have done great work in increasing their retail user base over the last couple of years. Now, Hyperliquid is again disrupting that.
What's on the roadmap for Spark in order to grow Spark, the user base, but also the feature set? What's next for Spark? How does the next 12 months look like?
Yeah, so the next month look as follows. We launch the perps, because perps have way larger volumes than spot everywhere. Also, I mentioned some exchanges. They mostly are sitting on the perps. Perps are easier to market make. Perps are cheaper to market make. You have way more users on the perps. That's a very different user technique. That's a very different also trader group. And you can arbitrage with the spot as well, like perps, spot. And in perps, you can like have as many assets as you want to consider. I mean, our perps, for instance, is Oracle based. It means that we can only list those assets that have like a price feed, right from an Oracle. And if you have like solid oracles like Pyth, for example, we integrated Pyth. So we release the perps in we're going to be releasing the first one in 4 weeks. And we're going to be iterating on that. We're going to be improving the perps. And we're going to be adding a lot of markets there. We have like a risk engine being built for using double oracles, Redstone and Pyth, paying so much attention to the oracles because we got hacked on Mango exactly. There was a price manipulation attack, right? The hacker manipulated an asset price on FTX, and we got affected because we were fetching the Mango token price from Switchboard, and Switchboard only uses like one venue for one asset, which is okay for the memes. But Pyth, for example, or Chainlink, they're tracking several venues. And if there is price volatility on one venue, it will exclude it from the price feed.
The price feed, yeah.
Right. So what else is there? Then we're going to list more markets, and we're going to be running our point program, our incentive program. We're also releasing the referrals. So if you are a trader and you bring friends, you're going to get better fees, and you're going to get some. And I think at some point there will be a token as well, Spark token. And yeah, we're going to be improving the fees. There's a lot of things we are doing with the gas as well on Spark. We bring CCXT Python support to Spark, which will enable it for more like pro traders that are being active on the market at the moment. It's been requested by too many people. I cannot, just not do it. What else is there? We improve the indexing, and that's a never-ending story. You constantly improve the indexing of your trades, of your orders. Again, we have to do it much.
How was your experience so far with the launch of the order book DEX, the spot part?
We were building it for almost 2 years. In the beginning, it was extremely hard. Fuel was a new blockchain, had no indexers. It was hard to index as well because it's a UTXO-based chain, which is completely different from everything else that was out there. Today, it's pretty easy. Today, Fuel is a very product-complete chain. It has all the infrastructure you need. Because on the chain, you don't need the chain itself. The chain itself is always going to be perfect. It's a distributed database. It's like relatively simple to build, but the infrastructure it sits on, the indexers, the price oracles I mentioned, also the wallets, right? All sorts of plugins, like all sorts of implementations of, for instance, if you have liquid staking, they are also using CCXT. People also, the traders also like use institutional liquid staking through that. And that's more. And again, if you're launching a new chain, you got to implement all that. Or you can grow completely new like user base, which will take you years. It's long and expensive. So fuel today is fast. We're releasing something every week. Like yesterday, we listed USDT, USDC market. We improved the liquidity constantly on ETH USDC and this new market. We're listing more assets this year on the spot. We're going to be listing something almost every week. But again, it's, for instance, MEXC. At some point, there were no meme coins, right? But they were listing all the assets all the time. Binance is winning the market today because of the listing speed. That's part of how they win. And you get those like push notifications. Like yesterday, for instance, I got, okay, Coinbase is going to list Mudang token, and Mudang volumes pumped instantly. You got to be fast on that. You got to list those assets as well. Plug in the market maker or your algorithm, depends on how you make it, and announce it everywhere and bring your users there. You got to be reactive to what is happening on the market. Crypto is a very momentum driven industry overall. So we have a roadmap, but at the same time, operating an exchange is more tactical than strategic.
Let's say if you zoom out a little bit and look at the strategic side, maybe in the broader sort of DeFi evolution, there's also this term DeFi Renaissance. I think we're just like in the hype cycle, like at the very early phase of marching towards maturity in the very early phase. What is your vision sort of how the next years in DeFi play out, and what are the important points? I think we are sort of at the peak of CeFi, and every business model has a life cycle. And I think from here on, we think after 15 years of centralized crypto exchanges, phasing them out over the next 15 years. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for gaining market share. I think it will take another cycle until sort of the really big shift kicks in. But I think now a lot of teams will be chosen. We also, like in terms of funding, they can then build sort of whatever is going to capture a lot of market share in the next bull market in 4 years. At least that's how I sort of feel like this could play out. What's your personal vision, sort of what's going on in the DeFi space and what's happening over the next years?
I want to give some context here. So in the beginning, DeFi was bringing users from TradFi, all the TradFi guys, and centralized exchanges were playing a link between TradFi and DeFi. I think we can easily hype token launch, and I tweeted about it last week. I think it marked the beginning of this new era of DeFi where people don't have to even list on centralized exchanges anymore. I think a big vision for DeFi will be get rid of the centralized exchanges by resolving all the problems that centralized exchanges resolve today. And that's listing the assets. And they list, why do people need the assets to list the assets and what problems they are resolving? For instance, if you're an average dev team, you have like a runway and you have burn rates, right? And the token is resolving a bunch of problems for you, including these two. And we want to provide a full kit for asset listing for the developers, for everyone essentially in DeFi. So you come to Spark, you can forward launch your token, you can list it, and on both like perps and spot. And again, then you can arbitrage it across other venues. So you will probably be talking to several exchanges at the same time. On DeFi, listing a token is way easier than on centralized exchanges, and it's 100, if not 1,000 times cheaper today. Again, you got to have a pretty liquid market. The more liquid it is, the better it's for everyone, the better experience it provides. So you can grow, but it's like, again, chicken and egg. The more assets you list, the more traction you get. But the trend we will be seeing in the next couple years is liquidity flowing from the centralized venues to decentralized. There will be like hybrid solutions, off-chain, on-chain, then fully on-chain. And the biggest shift, which I don't think we will do in the next cycle, is we're going to move is the practices how we trade from, again, fully off-chain order books to fully on-chain. I mentioned that before, that these are different user groups. Well, I see on-chain trading growing a lot over the next couple cycles. And again, Spark's vision is to build an ecosystem. And while initially I wanted to build an ecosystem of the order book based DeFi, today I want to resolve this problem for everyone. Is you can list on Spark and or like whatever asset you want, and you can extract these benefits that you're right now getting from decentralized exchanges.
Is there anything you want to add on the Spark side?
Yeah, absolutely. Come trade on Spark. Tell us what you think on the community. We are pretty open to all the comments right now. We're getting a lot of comments like fix this, fix that. We're trying to cope with, because we're right now in debugging stage essentially. Also, we're getting a lot of but that was also the case in Mango. A lot of security concerns. As an exchange, you constantly get those like, hey guys, I don't think this is good. I don't think that is good. And you need to sit with your research team and analyze that. But we're getting a lot of insight from the community right now.
Yeah, I think any product, it's sort of an evolutionary process where you need to be anti-fragile and try to sort of grow from the stress that you're exposed to. And if you do that over longer periods, you will turn into something robust eventually. Yeah, so I had some questions from listeners that they wanted to hear, and from the people who come to the show. And one was, what is the most interesting project you have come across lately?
Good one. There's this Arcana Finance on Solana. They published their entire library of the bots, and users come and they have a dashboard. So you run algorithms on Arcana, and you see it through a dashboard. You have a backend for that. I think that's pretty cool. You build an exchange, you give all the algorithms and tell, okay, listen, so we need to market make this asset, so you can run that. And these are this is the economy of this algorithm, and we've built it ourselves, so you don't have to do it. You just have to run it. Then we need to improve the arbitrage across these asset pairs. So again, please do that. This is an algorithm for you. I find it really cool. Also, I'm super excited to see Manifest Finance. I think it's the best order book on Solana. Manifest is great. It's built by the same people who have built Mango Markets, and this is extremely efficient team. They work nonstop. They work like beasts. And they have 3 products, Autobahn and Phil City, and it's all sitting on the Manifest order book. I'm super bullish on these 3 because of the way how they're built, because of the flawless experience of how they're built. What else is there? Well, I mentioned hype launch. This is the representation of how the launches of the protocol tokens should happen in the next cycle. And I guess I want to be part of this whole story with Spark as well. And I'm super bullish on Fuel because I see how this ecosystem is evolving. Apparently, I never thought that it's going to be growing so fast. There are new builders, new communities like Turkish communities crushing it completely. I'm super happy to see that all flavors of Pump.fun are thriving on Fuel because of, again, how it works. So again, it's a good proof of concept. I am pretty bullish on Movement, and I want to see how it takes off once it's live, because I think Move is going to be bringing a lot of fresh blood into Ethereum ecosystem. I just cannot be not excited about it. As you can see, I'm not mentioning any EVM based products. I see less and less innovation there. I think in Finex, right, this new product of Kine, the synthetics Kine Warwick, it's an interesting approach. He's going to be onboarding more Web2 users to crypto by aggregating different venues like the perps, he's going to aggregate synthetics and Drift. I'm super bullish on Drift on Solana. The guys are crushing it. This team is fragile proof because of how they work, because of their culture. They work nonstop. They're very fast. in exchanges, you got to be fast. So that's the quality your team has to develop. Without it, you're just going to die.
Well, we are building on Fuel as well, or integrating Fuel. We have a very similar model to Infinex. We try to do a bit less of the tech stack than as Infinex. And we will be integrating also Spark into our swap aggregator on Fuel, which is certainly exciting as well. It's all going to be our first sort of order book DEX integration, so it will take a bit longer than the AMM integrations. What advice would you give to Web3 builders who are just starting out, and maybe also Web3 builders who are thinking about building on Fuel?
Yeah, so I recommend everyone to approach it long term. You guys will get it, all of you, what you want, all the toys you have been dreaming about, everything you have imagined in your head, everything you call success. You're going to get it. It's just going to take a little bit more time, okay? But whenever, and don't listen to the VCs, they will be telling you all sorts of things. You need to have this vision of how you see your products, of how you see your users. Spend a couple years polishing it. Me as a founder, for instance, it took me 2 years, I guess, to even understand, okay, I'm a founder of this Spark product, right? I learned how to live with it. I know what I want to do with it. It takes more time in your head than you think. It's not that you build it in 3 to 6 months and then boom, you make it. It's going to take more. And people will be, including your VCs, will be telling you all sorts of things of what you have to do with your product, which might be distracting all the time. Don't listen too much. Be independent. That's my advice, I think.
It's a great point. Also been founder in the Web3 space for over 10 years now. And I think that's certainly been one of the mistakes that I didn't have the idea that something takes about a decade to really build and be successful, and have also this long-term horizon in how you're making your decision. And I think a lot of people, they make very short-sighted decisions and make their plans for a very short time frame. And I think that will make them less successful. So I think a lot of people are starting out and they want to launch a token next year. It would be better if thinking about launching a token in the bull market comes after this one, and maybe pick up some money, build something serious, and then launch a token very successfully and build something they will be proud of for the rest of their life, and not just launch a token, make some money, maybe make not some money, and then struggle again.
Yeah, in the second scenario you described, what is going to happen is probably this. You're not going to fulfill your long-term vision. You're going to crash, right? And you're going to start a new product, which is also okay. It's fine to, if your vision takes couple, projects to, fulfill, it's fine. It's the problem of thinking, if you think short-term, you're going to get exactly what you want. Now, when you get it, you think, okay, that's not what I was planning to achieve. Yeah, but that's exactly what you were aiming for, all this time. So think about it. Again, like I said, if it will take you a couple attempts to build, it's also okay.
Amazing. Well, let me thank you not only for coming onto the show, but also for being such a diligent builder. There are not so many people who venture into the cutting edge of technologies and build things from scratch. And that's something that I really admire in people in Web3, because there are not so many. Thank you so much for advancing sort of what we do in this decentralized economy.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the compliments. Yeah, you got to miss out in the beginning to make it big later. It's inevitable. Cheers. Enjoy your day.